Welcome to the Alabama Football Report. I am your host, Chris Daughtry. Before we get into today's show, we're just 24 days away from Alabama kicking off for the first game of the season. I'm so excited. If you guys are excited, make sure you hit that like button for me on today's video. We're trying to beat that August 2023 like number. We're off to a pretty good start. Help us out by liking today's video. We're going to be kicking off today's show just talking about some of the comments Kane Wommack said yesterday after Alabama's fifth practice. He talked a lot about the defensive backs and kind of where they sit in their progression coming along this spring, because there was, for me anyways, a lot of worries about this defensive back room after all the transfers that Alabama faced, after Nick Saban retired and even before that as well. This is what Kane Wommack said exactly about the defensive backs, that Husky position in particular. I think DeVonta Smith has done a really good job. Red Morgan has impressed me. It's always fun to watch freshmen from where they were in the spring to where they're headed and that jump that they make in the summertime. I think he's probably made a huge jump in that regard. Now, we've been talking about it a lot, this Alabama defensive back room. I think they have the guys at the starting positions that they need. Domani Jackson, we'll talk about him a little bit later. Same with Malachi Moore and Keon Sabb. I think there's a little bit more of a, position battle at that Husky spot than we're really given a lot of credit for. Red Morgan, he came in the springtime and looked really, really good for Alabama. I was super impressed. And, Kane Wommack has talked about Red Morgan a lot so far in this fall camp. I really like DeVonta Smith. Nick Saban really liked DeVonta Smith. I think he's going to be really good. It just depends for him if he's going to be able to stay on the field, because last year he just kept getting banged up with, a bunch of those just nagging injuries that, just at the end of the day kept him off the field. I think if he could stay healthy this year, he's going to be really good for the Crimson Tide. So let me know your confidence level in the defensive back room. Has it grown from, the time where all those transfers left for Alabama? Type Y for yes or N for no in the comment section for me. It is the pinned comment on today's video, so you know what that means. If that ad comes here on YouTube, that's totally fine. You can go down there, take advantage of it. Type Y for yes for me or N for no. Alabama lost a lot of DBs, 13 in total. Obviously, the biggest one, Caleb Downs, going to Ohio State, and then the traitor, Antonio Kite, going to Auburn. Jameer Grimsley gets out of his national letter of intent after he had signed it for Alabama. So it's like, just because guys sign their or national letter of intent doesn't really mean anything these days. He goes to Florida after Nick Saban retired. Des Ricks, he's one that, man, I'm really disappointed that Des Ricks didn't stick around. I thought he was going to be a really big impact guy for Alabama. Maybe not this year. Who knows? He could have been this year, but I guess we'll never know. Trey Amos, another guy, played, a decent amount for Alabama last year, just up and goes to Ole Miss. Yep. He would have played for Alabama, so it's really disappointing to see a guy like that as well leave. And then, Tony Mitchell, everybody knows the story around him. He transfers to East Mississippi Community College. Peyton Woodyard, another just really good safety prospect that Alabama would have really loved to keep. But at the end of the day, you know what? He went through the spring. He did what most of us asked of any of those guys to do, give Kalen DeBoer a chance. He did that, did not find it to be the right fit for him, ends up at Oregon. Christian Story, I don't know what was really going through his mind. Transfers to Kentucky. He was going to start for Alabama this year. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Christian Story was going to play a lot of snaps for Alabama this year at that safety position. Earl Little Jr., another big-time, prospect, just wasn't able to get on the field for Alabama last year. A lot of people thought he should have been on the field somehow, some way for Alabama. I really don't know where you would have put him, but it hurts losing him. And then Jake Pope, another guy who didn't really play for Alabama last year, specifically, at that safety spot, but he up and goes to Georgia, and you know what? It is what it is. But you lost a lot of guys, including, the main ones, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Tyron Arnold, Jaylen Key, all off to the NFL as well. But what Alabama was able to do was bring in some pretty solid transfers, I think. Domani Jackson coming over from USC, Keon Sabb coming from Michigan. I think both of those guys are going to be big for Alabama this year. We'll see what happens with DaShawn Jones. Is he going to be a guy that can really step up for Alabama and, possibly be a starter? Or is it going to be one of those, big-time freshmen that have come in at that cornerback spot, whether that's Jaylen Mbakwe, whether that's either one of the other guys, Mincey or Zabien Brown. Is it going to be one of those guys to start? Kane Wommack also, talked pretty positively about King Mack the other day. Seems like he's working at that Husky position. I think both him and Cameron Howard are going to be guys that, they're probably not going to play a whole hell of a lot this year. But I think both of those guys bring you a lot of versatility when it comes to the defensive back room and kind of how they can help you for the future. We talked about Keon Sabb. He also talked to Alabama media yesterday, just kind of about why he chose the Crimson Tide. He won a national championship at Michigan last year, and, there was a lot of coaching changes for Michigan. But, at the end of the day, they still had a pretty good team coming back. I think Sharon Moore put a pretty good staff together as well. They are getting hit with some, things in regard to the NCAA investigations on them. So, maybe it was a good time to get out for him. But, I really like what Keon Sabb is going to be able to bring to Alabama this year. He talked yesterday, somebody asked about why he chose the Crimson Tide out of the transfer portal. He said all the coaches going to the NFL, all different places, LA, the Seahawks. I felt like all the guys I really built a really good bond with ended up leaving, so I felt like it was the best decision for me to go somewhere else. That was our toughest game last year, for sure. They definitely got us to the end, that last play. So I definitely could see these guys were passionate about playing football. That definitely helped as well. And look, it's going to be Keon Sabb and it's going to be Malachi Moore in the back end for Alabama this year. I think both of these guys are going to be really good. In particular, replacing what Caleb Downs was able to give you at that safety position last year. Keon Sabb did really, really good. He played in 14 out of the 15 games last year for Michigan, made 5 starts, including one in the college football playoffs against Alabama, as well as in the national championship game. So he's got a lot of good playing experience. And then Malachi Moore, we know what he is at this point. He was at that nickel position, for the first 3 years, basically, of his career at Alabama, but now he's making that transition to the safety position. So we'll see if Alabama is able to, really replace Caleb Downs. I think they're going to be able to with both of these guys, especially it is a different defense now as well. But, yeah, we'll see. All the talk is talk. It doesn't really matter until we see what happens on the field. Today's show is presented by Game Time. I love summertime because, guys, Major League Baseball is in full swing, and I love going over to Atlanta, making the, couple-hour drive over there to catch a Braves game every single chance I get. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And with Alabama games coming up now just about a month away, you can get tickets to watch the Crimson Tide as well. Get tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. They have exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals. They have deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They also have zone deals where you pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings in the process. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Check out GameTime.co for last-minute tickets. Once again, terms do apply, but create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase at CHATSPORTS, Chat Sports, for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Domani Jackson also talked about why he, stuck around at Alabama after Nick Saban retired. If you remember back to when they were, going through that bowl preparation for that Michigan game, you saw Domani Jackson, he was at Alabama's practice out there, came over, Nick Saban ran over there, shook his hand. He ends up just committing a day or two later. And then Nick Saban retires, on January 10th. And all of a sudden, it hits the fan. We don't know what's going on. Those guys who were committed had the opportunity to leave. And Domani Jackson had already committed to Alabama, and he decided to stay. This is what he told Alabama media yesterday about that decision and why he chose to stay with the Crimson Tide. He said, truthfully, the A doesn't change. It's still a powerhouse. It runs college football. I just wanted to have a change and reset my career, and I just felt like this is the best opportunity for me. It's really my sophomore year. My junior year out of high school was COVID. My senior year, I didn't play. Freshman year of college, I didn't play. And last year was my first real year. I'm building my confidence, and I'm bringing that swag back. We'll break it down a little bit more, but I want you guys, if you haven't already, subscribe right here to the Alabama Football Report. We're going up against our Michigan channel. Boss James Yoder, he's running the Michigan Report. They're kind of running around with like chickens with their head cut off right now with all the, news coming out about Michigan and, all the different allegations coming out about them. So let's beat them. Let's beat the cheaters. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. Now, like I said, Domani Jackson last year could have been better. It was his first year starting with USC in his sophomore season. 64.5% completion percentage against him is a little high. That, he was 20 for 31 completions allowed. So you'd like to see that number come down a little bit. Same with the yards, and you'd hope to see the PBUs and interception. I call those my ball hawking metrics, if you will. Those are the kind of things that are going to have to be better for Domani Jackson this year, because at the end of the day, these numbers right here are not going to cut it. Because you look at what Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold did last year for Alabama. I understand, Terrion Arnold played his way into being a first-round draft pick. Kool-Aid McKinstry probably should have been a first-round draft pick going in round 2 to the Saints. But, Kool-Aid last year was so good, nobody wanted to throw at him. 19 for 39 against him, 48.7% completion percentage. And Terrion Arnold, everybody wanted to throw at him. 79 targets going to Terrion Arnold last year. And he was just nails at the end of the day. 79 targets, only 41 completions. I think that is probably the number you would like to see Domani Jackson get to, because, he's still 441 on the yards allowed, but way more, targets going his way. Almost double the targets went to Terrion Arnold's way. And what's that, like 30 more yards or so for Terrion Arnold? So, Domani Jackson he's just going to have to play better for Alabama. I'm excited to see, how he can progress, because I'm not the kind of person that just says, just because a guy wasn't very good year one, and he wasn't terrible. Just let me say that. He was not terrible, but he can be better. I totally believe in the process still, and I believe that guys can definitely still get better. So let me know in the comments section of today's video, what is your confidence level in Domani Jackson coming up this year for the Crimson Tide? Scale it for me 1 to 10 in the comments section.